Hey folks, it's Cody Stoffer with Playmakers Corner, here to tell you about Code Red coaching. Competing in athletics means you've lifted the weights, you've watched film, and you've got the passion. Problem is, that's what everyone else in the state has done. Perfect your game by honing in on your mental performance with Code Red coaching. Whether you are a team or an individual, Code Red coaching has the tools to create mentally solid habits and set up you or your team for success. Find Code Red coaching at coderedcoaching.com or call 720-979-1914 to learn more today. That's coderedcoaching.com or 720-979-1914 today. Now back to the show. Howdy, y'all, and welcome back to the Playmakers Corner podcast. I am one of your hosts, Cody Stoffer.
And I'm your other co-host, Simon Voyanos, aka Coach V.
And we make a return to our classic series here, Top 5 Seniors by Position Group here. And on today, we are going to be talking about the top 5 class of 2023 tight ends here out of Colorado. This was a really intriguing group here. And so before we talk about these players here, as well as honorable mentions a little bit later, the process that we kind of use here is developing 10 categories. We score those categories out of 10 here. Those scores out of 10 being 1 through 3, needing improvement, should be a priority. At best, it's okay. But, it's not good enough this could be a reason to be benched or not start. Then 4 through 6 is average. The skill is, on a bad day, just below average, but above average at the very best. Will be okay for the time being, but maybe could be a problem on the next level, like in college or, heading into next season, could be something that's exploited. Now, 7 through 8 is average to good. This skill, is a tool in their tool bag here. It is utilized very well, or it is something that they've shown promise or upside in. And, it can be a difference maker between them and somebody else, comparable to 2 to 3 star kind of thing, a low 3 star that is. 8 to 9. Good to great. This is like 3 to 4 star talent. This guy does this on a regular basis. We can expect that out of this athlete. We can expect this skill while planning how to use this player and stuff like that. Even when it's not pretty, it still works kind of thing. And then 9 to 10, this is elite skill-based ability here and something that separates guys not only within like the state or amongst other positions, but even something amongst the country that is like a pretty solid skill. This is something that you could probably throw them into a situation and they'll be able to do this for you even as a true freshman. Maybe not at the same consistency that they did in high school, but they will produce that, aspect of their game for you here. And so the categories that we are doing for tight end, if you listen to our top 5, series here, we have different categories for every position. You'll hear some overlaps amongst certain positions here, like, this tight end list, pretty similar to wide receiver in some ways and different in some ways too. And, just kind of evaluated based on the position as well. So, speed for a cornerback is different than speed for a tight end, right? But anyways, let's go ahead and jump into these categories here in descending order on our list, but evaluated all at the same time as we watch their film kind of once, get an idea for what their game is, maybe jot down a couple of numbers here and some notes. Then we watch through their film a second time, maybe look at some junior year film, or, maybe start with junior year film is what Coach V does, and then moves up to the senior year, see if there's improvements in some areas. And so, we watch this film over and over again and also watch game film as well about these guys to kind of get these lists together for these categories that include route running / release. These are kind of clumped together a little bit here. Just can you get off the ball and what do your routes look like downfield? Obviously, a little bit different expectations for tight ends compared to wide receivers. Blocking, this is a huge one for tight ends here, especially because they are asked to, put their hand in the dirt a decent amount of time or, be really good blockers out in space for spread concepts on screens and whatnot. Speed here, speed is speed. Hands / ball skills, not only how sticky are their hands, but how well can they adjust to the ball. and, position their body in such a way. Agility / footwork, pretty straightforward there. Field vision, not only can they find pockets in the defense while running routes, but what do they do once they have the ball in their hands here? And, as far as maneuvering the field, how nice does that look? Strength, strength is strength. Route tree / versatility here. This can look like a couple of different things. Obviously, the route tree is the biggest thing that we probably look for here. Like, do they just run hitches and goes? Or, are they running chair routes? Are they running hitch and goes? Are they running whips? Or what do their ins look like here? Are they running spot routes? Like, what's the versatility there? And then also, with tight ends, this is kind of a special position here, especially in the modern era of football where, does this tight end split out wide, or do they have their hand in the dirt? Are they more of an H-back? Do they get handoffs? What else do they do for this team here? And then verticality / contested catch. Tight ends, they're supposed to be, a huge mismatch because do you put a linebacker on them? Do you put a cornerback? Do you put a safety on them? And how do they exploit those? And so verticality / contested catch is a really easy spot to kind of see, tight ends just bully cornerbacks and whatnot. And then balance / body control. This is kind of an overall skill trait that you will see sprinkled in through a handful of these other categories. But all in all, are they an athlete? And, do they use leverage properly, both in blocking and in the receiving game here? Coach V, did I miss anything before I introduce our first entry here?
Nope. I think that sounds all good and well. Let's just go ahead and get into it. So go ahead and introduce our number 5 tight end here in the class of 2023.
Yeah, our number 5 tight end here is actually going to be the only entry from the 4A classification here. He had a very solid season out of Grand Junction Central here. I'm talking about the 6'4", 225-pound tight end Cash Walker here, who, he is a playmaker here who can catch the ball in traffic, and he has solid speed as well. And so while we do this, we kind of talk about strengths or like the highlights of the categories, and then we kind of talk about some areas of improvement amongst the categories here. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about his strengths. His biggest strength is definitely his hands / ball skills, in my opinion. He does a great job adjusting to the football constantly, whether it's back shoulder, whether it's over the shoulder, whether it's coming back to the football to make a catch on an underthrow, or it's just that kind of route. He does a really good job of adjusting to all those things here. And so I have that at least an 8.2 here. And, his hand / ball skills, I think, translates very nicely into his verticality / contested catch. He gets to show his hands and ball skills well in his verticality / contested catch. But, the difference here, not only can he adjust to the ball, but he's strong too when going for the football, and cornerbacks are just too small. And he consistently shows too small. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if his number 1 celebration was holding his hand only a foot above the ground, because he just bullies cornerbacks as far as, when that football is in the air. It is definitely his. And even if his hand is being held, he only needs one hand to make that catch. Or even if, they try and jam him up, he just, eventually finds his way to where he needs to be on the field. And then the third category I have here, there's a couple of categories that could be here, but I have his speed at a 7.7. I think that he's, pretty solidly fast. And I think that kind of makes sense, considering, the positions that they put him in. They have him split out wide quite a bit here, but also he shows some speed on those drag routes. Safeties end up trailing him a little bit, and I think that all 3 of those are pretty solid here. Coach V, what do you have to say about Cash Walker's strength and Cash Walker, the football player?
Yeah, so, well, here, hold up. I thought we were gonna, my bad. I thought we were gonna just talk about strengths and weaknesses at the same time and then just go.
I need to catch my breath.
Okay, sounds good. Well, we'll just talk about strengths then and go from there. But with Cash Walker here, I'd agree. You had I think you had his hands and ball skills. That was his highest rating. For me, that's the same thing. Along with route tree versatility and for me, verticality and contested catch here. Hands and ball skills was an 8.5. I had his route tree and versatility at an 8.2. They'll put him at multiple spots, line him up at traditional tight end, slot receiver, even outside as well. I think when they line him outside, though, it's so that he could just draw a one-on-one matchup, which is where, his catching and contested catch and verticality, comes in here, because honestly, if it's one-on-one, he's gonna body a corner and, like you said, just bully smaller players. And so that's definitely a good job on Grand Junction Central's part to move him around, get him favorable matchups. And, he makes the most out of a lot of those favorable matchups. He finishes plays, and so you love to see that. Obviously, those ratings, I think he's around a 3-star, 4-star when it comes to that. And so a lot of good things there, I think those are definitely his strengths there. He's a pretty solid pass catcher. Also, at 6'4", 225, throws around his weight and height really well, which I think you have to see on this level, on the high school level. If you're a bigger dude, like, you gotta dominate these guys, and so I think that's definitely the bare minimum. Does he do that as good as some other guys on this list? No. Obviously not all of the guys, at least on this list, but he does do it better than a lot of other players that we have looked at and evaluated, which I think matters. I think on the next level, that'll translate really well. So, there you go. Kodey, do you mind if I just talk about all my grades here and just talk some weaknesses as well, areas of improvement?
Yes, please do.
All right, well, let's just go and do that. So his lowest ratings for me was a 6.5 and a 7. I gave him a 6.5 for blocking here, and then I gave him 3 7s for footwork, agility, strength, and balanced body control. Let me start with the blocking here. It's not that he's not a willing blocker. He's really willing. He'll get out there, he'll block. Is it always the cleanest? Yeah, it's fine, which means it's not always the cleanest, but he is willing to get in there and, be physical. But I think this is still something he could continue to work on here. Just working on the skill of blocking, getting leverage, and all of that great stuff. And then, once you get your hands on somebody, having fast enough hands to readjust so that it's not like it's not a hold when you're holding somebody and they're trying to get out of your grasp and whatnot. And so, he could definitely improve as a blocker. And I'm just saying that from a skill aspect. But let me talk about his strength too, which I gave him a 7 on. He could probably get a little bit stronger. I mean, at 225, he's not like light at all, but I think if he was to get to 240, 250, then I think we could really see his blocking take it up a notch, because I think another thing that kind of hurts his blocking is that he's just not the strongest. I want to say, like, he's not gonna consistently manhandle defensive linemen, which is what I'm looking for most of the time when I'm looking at blocking. Like, can you manhandle somebody, and who are you manhandling as well matters. And so I think strength and blocking goes hand in hand. If strength improves, then blocking will definitely improve as well. And I mean, we've said he does bully smaller players. That's fine. They're smaller, but he could still continue and improve on that, because on the next level, yes, there will be smaller players, but just because you're 5'10", 6 foot doesn't necessarily means that you're going to be naturally weaker than someone who is taller than you or weighs more than you. There's going to be guys that naturally get good leverage and are just naturally strong, for their height and weight. And so I think he just really needs to improve on that. Now, let me talk balance and body control and footwork and agility. I think both of those go hand in hand. I mean, it's fine. I mean, I gave him a 7. That's like above average. I think he could still be improved with his balance and body control. I probably see more as a blocker. He doesn't get lower than the other guy. You see that kind of a bit. And then even when he's trying to, break some tackles and whatnot, he runs a little upright too, so that could definitely be improved. Not that that's something that's impossible to improve on or will take a long time to improve on, but I just think that, it'll do him a lot of good to get in the habit of just being lower than the guy, you're going up against, whether it's as a blocker or, whether it's a defender that you're trying to run over. And so I think that could go hand in hand there. Footwork and agility, I mean, he's a little clunky, just a little bit here. I think his footwork could be a little bit faster, a little bit more precise. When it comes to route running, I think you see that a lot. It's a little sloppy there, a little slow, and so he could get faster. I mean, his route running isn't rated super high. It's his next lowest grade for me at a 7.4, and so I feel like those go hand in hand as well. So definitely some things to work on. Is it the worst? No, I think it's definitely good enough for him to be a next level guy, but it could use some improvement. Now, let me just go down the line and talk about all my grades real quick, since I talked about my best ones for Cash Walker here and then my lowest grades. But let me just go down the line once more to review that, and then I'll throw it to Kodey. But route running release, I gave him a 7.4. Blocking, a 6.5. Like I said, that's his lowest rating. Speed, a 7.8. I mean, he's not going to burn anybody, but he's definitely faster than a lot of linebackers. So there you go. Hand slash ball skills, 8.5. Footwork agility, 7. Field vision, 8. Sees the field relatively well, I think, at least at the level of a 3-star tight end. Strength is a 7. Verticality slash contested catch is an 8.2. And then balance and body control is a 7. My total grade here for Cash Walker is actually a 75.6. Kodey, do you want to talk about the rest of your grades here?
Yes, and thanks for letting me adjust here. I just, of course, right before we record, ran into a little bit of a cough here, so let's go. But anyways, when looking at Cash Walker, do want to echo some things that Simon has here. Obviously, his blocking isn't the best here. I have it rated at a 6.7. It's not his lowest category here. His lowest category for me, honestly, was his balance slash body control. I have that at a 6.1 just because, when he's running his routes, he can be pushed off by linebackers off of his route a little bit here. And, I look at that and think, hey, you should probably have a stronger core here and just understand leverage a little bit better, and you won't be pushed around like that, is kind of what I'm seeing here when looking at that too. And like Coach V said, there's going to be guys that are a lot bigger on the next level as well than the guys that Cash Walker went against. So that is something that he's going to have to work on here. I also don't think he's super particularly strong. I have his strength at a 6.4 here. Anytime that he does appear strong, I'd say, as far as getting blocks on defenses, is usually in aid of a double team, I want to say. So he just doesn't show overwhelming strength for me. And then, something where Coach V and I differ just a little bit here is in the route tree slash versatility. He is somebody who lines up all over the field, but the routes aren't super creative for me. And he kind of drifts a little bit too, which is reflected in his route running. That's at a 6.9. And, while I have that, I'm just going to dive into the rest of these categories here. So blocking, 6.7, running slash route release, or release slash route running, 6.9. I think that he has a couple different releases, which kind of helps him out a little bit here. He has a couple different ways to beat press, but once he's running his routes, he drifts, he gets pushed off of them. And I think that kind of ties into, I think it's more of a lack of understanding maybe of spacing on the field, or just lack of understanding on how to use your body to really leverage that. And so I think that's more reflected in strength and balance slash body control as well. As you know, these categories all kind of tie together at some point. For agility slash footwork here, Coach V has it at a 7. I have it at a 7.5. I do think that he does a good job of adjusting to get back on his route. But like he said too, it can be pretty inconsistent at times. So there's that. And then, his field vision, I have it rated at a 6.8. And I think that part of that is just him running into linebackers or, getting bumped off by linebackers a little bit here, and just not being more cognizant of the area that he's running into. But, I mean, all in all here, Coach V and I are pretty close on our analysis of Cash Walker here. I have him graded at a 70.5, so that's like, just barely like almost a 2-star kind of guy. Coach V, pretty solid 2-star kind of guy for an overall score of 73.05 here. And when looking at his Twitter offers, I think that it reflects our score very, very well here. Look, his very first offer was to Mesa. That makes sense. Mesa is literally, in Grand Junction, so they're in his own backyard, so it's good to see Mesa trying to get arguably the best, or at least the most highly touted player in the Grand Junction high school scene, I would say. But he also has an offer from Mount Marty, which is a D3, and he just received, as of the 26th of November, so literally yesterday, when we're recording this on the 27th, by the way, he received an offer from Western University as well. Western is a team that utilizes tight ends pretty well, honestly, and they really like their play action kind of vibes and finding tight ends on those drag routes. But Cash Walker is somebody who offers them versatility to do that while also providing, this Western offense with a jump ball guy potentially in the red zone as well. Coach V, what do you think of his offers currently, and how you think they might play out?
Yeah, so I think it tracks pretty well. Honestly, I have him as a D2 guy, all in all, honestly. I'm just looking at his skills. Look at tight end, you got to be able to do multiple things. That includes blocking. That includes being able to run after the catch and run multiple routes and route concepts, all that stuff. And so he does do, some of those things, but I think it's not at as high a level as some of these other guys. And so I think the D2 level would be really good for him. It's still an opportunity to play ball on the next level and ball out and have some of your education paid for, and that's not a bad deal at all. Now, if he does go to the D2 level, I don't expect him to play right away at all. I expect him to at least take 2 years. One is probably going to be a red shirt, and then at least one other year to continue to develop. But, at tight end, when you're recruiting guys and evaluating them, you're looking for somebody with some good base skills to work with, and then you could work off of that and continue to develop him. And that's kind of what Cash Walker is here. He has a good frame at 6'4", 225. He has good enough skills all around, and he has a pretty solid pass catching skills as well, which really helps him out here. And so considering all of that, I think he is very much a D2 guy. But like I said, somebody who's going to need time to develop and mold into into whatever system he ends up going into and trying to fit into. So, yeah, I mean, is that fair to say? That's just kind of how I view the kid right now. He's a little raw, but, he does have some very good skills, exceptional skills.
I think it's more than fair, honestly. I think that, he kind of had a little bit of a benefit as far as, you watch his film, you watch the games that they played, and there's just not a lot of people that matched up with him physically. And so, in high school, you're going to run into that. Every single one of these players benefits from that on any of our lists, obviously. But, Cash will be challenged more on the next level. But, honestly, I like the fits here, at least keeping them in Colorado. The Western fit's nice. Also, Mesa, they're a team that kind of gets players playing pretty quickly, honestly. So if he wants to play sooner rather than later, stay in his hometown, I really think that would be a nice fit for Cash Walker and for Mesa as well. The Mount Marty offer is cool and all, but he's definitely more than a D3 player. So... that's kind of where I'm at. But, a red shirt wouldn't kill him either. So
no, for sure. I don't think he's an NAIA player or a JUCO player, really. I mean, if he wants to go to JUCO, that's fine. But I think D2 is where he fits in, and I do like that offer as well. We'll see what happens. I mean, we're recording this, a couple weeks before this episode will actually come out, so we'll see where all these players end up going, those who haven't committed yet, and whatnot. There's a lot of decisions to be made soon here, but yeah, absolutely agreed. I don't really have too much more to add on, Kodey. Do you?
No, I think that we're ready to have you introduce our number 4 tight end here.
Say less. So the number 4 senior tight end from this class of 2023 here in Colorado is Donnie Carney, the Green Mountain tight end here. It is worth noting he does make this list, obviously, and he comes from the lowest classification of where all the players play on and whatnot. He plays on the 3A level. Still, obviously, great talent. You see plenty of players on the 3A level go on and play D1, so it's not like he's getting, guarded by a bunch of schmucks out here. There's definitely some talent here as well. But let's go ahead and talk about him. By the way, he's 6'4", 230. At least that's what we have listed here. But let me go ahead and talk about all my grades first, just listing them off. And then, we'll go with the top ones and then the lowest ones. But at route running release, I have him at a 7. At blocking, I gave him an 8.8. At speed, 7.9. Hands, ball skills, 8.4. Footwork, agility, and field vision, gave him a 6 in both those categories. Strength, I gave him a 9.2. Route tree versatility, 7. Verticality, contested catch, 8.6. And balanced body control, 8.5. His overall grade for me is a 77.4. That's around 2 points higher than Cash Walker, at least for my grades. Now let me go ahead and talk about the highest grades here. So I gave him a 9.2 for strength, and then an 8.6 for verticality, contested catch, and an 8.8 for blocking. So let me talk about this. So I think with Donnie Carney, he is a very good blocking tight end. When talking about his archetype and all that, he is a blocking tight end and a very good one. His strength is next level for sure. Gave him a 9.2 there. There's no other tight end on this list, I guess, spoiler alert, that is stronger than him, in my opinion. He is somebody who does have a wrestling background. And so, you got to consider that he gets leverage well. And so he's able to manhandle some of these guys better than others. But honestly, for his height and weight here, because he is 6'4", 230, I don't know if I quite believe that. He might be a little bit less, which is fine, But at his size and weight here, he is stronger than some dudes who are both taller than him and heavier than him. And I think that is definitely worth noting here. He's somebody that I haven't really seen him at all get dominated, and obviously we've looked through his film. We've seen him play live in a double overtime game against Evergreen here, who, by the way, has a huge defensive end in Russ Woodward, who is like 6'6", 250, 260, who's also going to go D1 at defensive end / offensive line potentially. So there you go there. And we got to see him block against him and do his thing. And, honestly, just from what we've seen, what I've seen, I am very confident in his ability to block on the next level and manhandle linebackers, defensive ends, all those guys, and then definitely secondary dudes. And so that is his biggest strength there, his power and his strength at 9.2, and then blocking at an 8.8. He does it as good as anybody that I've seen here for as long as we've done this series here. He does a good job getting leverage, and on top of that, does a good job readjusting as well. He doesn't just let his hands kind of drift outside or anything like that. If he needs to readjust, he will, because he does have pretty fast hands. And you kind of see that in some of his defensive film, because he does play defensive end, so you see some of that hand fighting there. So there you go. The next thing the next thing I do want to talk about is verticality slash contested catch. Doesn't get a lot of opportunities to catch the ball. I'm going to be honest there. But when he is in one-on-one, he rarely misses if the ball is thrown accurately, that is. And so he will go up there and he will body somebody and he will make a catch. I mean, he's a physical dude altogether. At tight end, I mean, he plays it as a physical football player in all aspects of the game. And you see that a lot when he goes up and gets the ball. And so for me, that's something I really like. Definitely a little concerning that he did not get as many opportunities. But if you know what Green Mountain does, they run the football with like 5 different dudes. So that's just the system that he's in, and that does kind of put him at a disadvantage, but when he does get his opportunities, he definitely makes the most out of it. Now, let me talk about the 2 lowest grades here. Gave him a 6, both in footwork agility and field vision here. Well, here's my thing with that. Footwork agility, I mean, not a lot of opportunities to get the ball in space and make a lot of moves, but when he does, it could be a little bit better. It could definitely be a little bit better. I think he's a bit more of a straight line runner than somebody who's going to string together a couple of juke moves, spin moves, all that stuff. So there you go there. As far as field vision go, I mean, not a lot of opportunities to catch the football and run, and so I'm not going to quite hold that to him. But when he does get some opportunities, most of the time he's just kind of spotting up and catching it, and that's fine. But it makes it hard to go ahead and see what his field vision is like when he's running in space. And, if he could see blocks and, see ahead and see what paths he should be taking when he does have the football in his hand. And so, because he doesn't get as many of those opportunities, I do got to dock him there. But altogether, I think he's a very good blocking tight end. In the opportunities he does get to catch the football, he's made the most out of it. But, there's always going to be that question mark, like, okay, well, how good is he really? If we throw him 100 footballs, how is that going to work? How many is he going to catch? Especially in coverage and whatnot, if we throw him the ball 100 times in coverage, how many of those times is he going to come down with the football? I think that's valid. And then on top of that, what is he going to do when he gets the ball in his hands on maybe some of these shorter throws like hitch, slant routes? And can he create after the catch? Definitely big questions, but that is more brought up by the situation that he is in, and so I'm just going to acknowledge that there. But Kodey, what do you think about Donnie Carney here? What are your... Well, let's just talk about your grades first, and then we could discuss what we think about him altogether.
Well, Donnie is the first of basically almost every tight end on this list from here on out who does not get used to the full of his capabilities due to scheme. So just stay tuned to hear that over and over again. And, I guess I'll start with his areas of improvement and kind of climb up the ladder of his grades here. The lowest grade I have here is his route tree / versatility. I don't really think that's too much of a surprise with the amount of targets that he gets and, where he lines up. I just have it at a 5. I think literally his routes are hitch, corner, drag. So nothing very crazy there. And, he's, for the most part, a very traditional tight end. Sometimes they split him out, but I think it's mainly to open up, like, just the box for their run game. Just because, he is a threat in one-on-one. But it's not one that, honestly, if I'm a defensive coordinator, there were multiple times in the game that we even watched where it's like, oh, we have him one-on-one, and they just didn't throw it. And it's like, come on, man. Like, okay, if you're not going to do it now when I have like a 5'8" corner on him, you're not going to do it all game. So I wouldn't even really worry about it. But climbing up this ladder here, in kind of addition to, the versatility and route tree being not great, the route running / release isn't the best. He's not like, he just doesn't run a lot of routes, and like his hitch routes don't look the best, and his corner routes get kind of rounded, like he rounds his routes quite a bit. So I think that those are things to consider, and it's not like he shows a lot of ways to get off the ball. Not like he has to with what he's been given, but he just doesn't show a lot there. And then in addition with Coach V here, his field vision for me is a 6.2. It's his third lowest category. I think that's something that helps his field vision is, what he's able to see as a blocker is the only reason why it even is able to get past a 6. But, with the ball in his hands, he's not, gonna be running around and weaving and like using his blockers. He's just gonna use his shoulder and his legs, which is fine. But, also just there is a time and a place, and then there is a time and a place where you maybe want to look for the pockets and stuff. And he just hasn't really been given the opportunities to show that. Climbing more up this list here, I actually think that my next categories are his speed and agility/footwork. I have both of those at a 7.8. The only reason that his agility/footwork gets a little bit of a boost here is what he's able to do, and like just the way that his feet are used as pistons when blocking. And I think that he does a pretty solid job of like sliding his feet. And, I'll talk about his blocking more in a second, but he's not a brick spinning around out there, but it is something that could be improved. Speed-wise, he's very explosive. Honestly, the first time I watched this film and saw him catch a ball, I was like, oh my gosh, he's moving slow. But I think that part of that was just how fast the secondary is. But for a tight end, I think that he has solid enough speed, honestly. He can get downfield. He can get where he needs to be on his routes on time. It's not like the quarterback is ever waiting on him when he is throwing routes. And, when he's going up to the second level speed-wise, as far as a blocker, he consistently gets there in time. And, I think that that's something that's commendable. Further climbing up here, his hand/ball skills, I have it at 8.1. Honestly, I think that it could be closer to that 8.4 range that Coach V has here, but I just don't see it enough. But he does have solid hands. He does adjust to the ball really well. He does box out, which is why his verticality/contested catch is an 8.6. Like, he's very good at using his body as a shield, shielding the ball from the defender, making a play on it, and, just making life pretty miserable, honestly, for anybody who has to defend him in the pass game here. In addition to that, now we're getting into the greens here. We're getting into his top categories, honestly, and here at an 8.9, this is where I start to give him some pretty high grades, honestly. I give him 8.9 in balance/body control, mainly for just his ability to show leverage in both the run and the pass game is splendid. It's very splendid. It's spectacular even. And this ties together very nicely with his IQ and with his strength to make him, in my opinion, on this list. I went back and forth on this quite a bit, but I think he's the best blocking tight end on this list. When you look at the volume, when you look at the different kinds of blocks that he's doing, he's very, very good. Strength at 9.3, blocking at 9.2. He's the strongest tight end I have graded here as well, both in the run and pass game here. He's just a very powerful blocker, and he's very smart to identify and pancake the correct guy. He has a ton of pancakes. He finishes his blocks consistently, and part of that is, the balance and body control. He does a good job at getting between him or getting between the defender and the ball carrier and giving the ball carrier, kind of a lane or something to cut off of, or just continually driving defenders, whether it's defensive ends, whether it's linebackers, corners, safeties. It doesn't matter what position you play. You can be pancaked by Donnie Carney. You are still at risk of being pancaked, no matter what position you play here. And, combine that with the fact that even when he's blanketed, he's capable of making tough catches. And, he doesn't, like I said, he doesn't really have the touches to show a variety of releases or a variety of routes or, to show off run after the catch. But, these other categories here give me confidence that these can be aspects or tools in his game. The balance/body control, I think that he could be a hard guy to take down. Same with his strength. He is a harder guy to bring down when he is, when he does get the ball. And if you don't get the jump on him, as far as trying to tackle him before he has the ball, basically, you're in for a ride probably, especially if you're some cornerback trying to tackle this 6'4", 230-pound tank that is just strong from bottom to the top here. And yeah, overall, I have him rated at a 76.9. This is one of Coach V's and I's closest grades, honestly, being separated by only half a point, with Coach V's rating being a 77.4, making Donnie's overall grade a 77.15, knocking on that 3-star door, definitively a 2-star, and I mean, we know he's a D1 guy is the thing here, according to his offers. Coach V, do you have anything to add before I kind of talk about that stuff or that side of his, career heading forward?
I don't have too much to add here. I mean, like I said, like we've been saying, he's a physical football player in all aspects of the game, and so he's definitely going to set the tone for your program if you do recruit him and get him on your squad, which is something that every football coach loves. But yeah, I mean, go ahead and talk about his offers real quick. Let's go ahead and react to that.
Perfect. So, he's had a couple of invites. We'll start with that first. He's been out to CSU and CU for Junior Day, but it feels like they invite everyone there and then don't do anything about it. So take that how you will. He's had an edit from Cornell and New Mexico State wishing him luck, in upcoming games and whatnot. So, a little bit of interest there. Oh my God. He has a 4.71 GPA. Jeez. Sorry, that caught me off guard. I did not have that in my notes, and I just saw that. Holy. Also, he's going to be great for your team GPA. He can probably help out with that team average. But anyways, the offers that he does have currently is from Air Force and University of Northern Colorado, our alma mater here. Coach V, he has a 4.71 GPA. Gosh, that's crazy.
It's very good. You love to see that. And
very good. That's one of the highest we've ever seen on this show. Good grief.
Definitely one of the highest. Not the highest, though.
Carney on that.
But
not the highest, but pretty dang high.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still reeling from that. And geez, you look at all these physical tools that he has, and you look at this GPA. How does this guy not have more offers? No disrespect to UNCO or Air Force, but it would be a steal, honestly, for Northern Colorado or Air Force to land Donnie Carney here.
Yeah, no, it would definitely be a steal, and he should have more offers. Nothing against Northern Colorado, but as we're currently recording this, they don't have a head coach, so there's that. And then Air Force, they are under NCAA sanctions as well, so, there's that as well. I'm kind of hoping another team offers him between now and when this episode comes out, because I do believe he is a next level guy. I think he's firmly an FCS D1 guy. He could maybe play group of 5 as well, but I think he might need a little bit more development and whatnot, which is fine. I mean, he's going to need development regardless. So there you go. But I think he's definitely a D1, FCS or group of 5. Probably I'm leaning closer to an FCS dude and whatnot, but the GPA definitely helps. And I mean, I'm sure there might be some teams out there that might offer him maybe a half scholarship, and then the rest could come from financial aid, and he will still be on the team and whatnot, but at least that'll give him an opportunity to eventually earn a full ride. And I mean, half of your school is getting paid for, so that's never a bad thing either, and that's on the D1 level. But I really kind of feel like a team will, come out and just offer him a full ride, because he does bring a lot to the table here. There's a lot of potential here, and the things he does really well are things that they're things that you are happy to, not have to coach, if you know what I'm saying there. There are things that you don't necessarily have to teach, or are really hard to teach, like being a physical football player, being a really good blocker, getting leverage consistently, and doing well with that, and all that great stuff. And so he brings a lot to the table, for a lot of programs. We'll see who pulls the trigger here, but I'm definitely of the idea that he's a D1 dude who has a lot more offers ahead of him. But, they just got to take a closer look at his film and whatnot. And on top of that, you kind of got to get over the fact that he does play for Green Mountain, who doesn't utilize him as heavy as they probably should in their offense outside of blocking, which I feel like might be hurting his recruitment quite a bit here, just because he doesn't have as many of those opportunities to showcase, pass catching, which, it might come off as flashy and whatnot, but in today's football and whatnot, in today's society, when it comes to football, you got to be able to pass catch. You can't just be a blocker, because if you are just a blocker, then you're just a lineman to a lot of these college coaches. And so you got to be versatile here at tight end. And I think that is definitely something that might be hurting, his recruitment and hurting the idea of for a lot of programs to pull the trigger on him and give him a full ride. So there you go. But what do you think about that statement there, Kodey? I don't think it's unfair at all. But, when you see a guy who's a great blocker, that's always great. You always have to wonder, though, can he be a good pass catcher or at least a competent pass catcher on the next level?
And here's my thoughts on that. Like, dude, if you just make him catch 100 footballs a day, he's going to be a competent pass catcher. Like, we've watched the film. There's not question marks about his hands, I don't think. I think that he needs the reps. And, you have somebody, like you said, I feel like the blocking and the leverage, like, that's stuff that, you have to develop muscle memory to, versus he has hands, and it's like, all right, here's what you're going to do. You're going to run, like, 20 in routes today, and you're just going to keep repping this, and we're going to get you to where you can run because, a tight end's route tree doesn't have to be as wide, I will say, as a wide receiver's route tree, Like, just get him repping a lot of these tight end routes, get him some coaching, because I don't think they realize how much he rounds his routes over at Green Mountain, because, they just don't throw it enough for that to really matter, but get him, to understand the benefits of, a speed route versus, actually selling vertical and then breaking and stuff like that. And I think that, with his body control and, understanding of leverage, he's going to be able to run explosive routes. And part of his game too, and part of the reason that we know he's so explosive is his defensive end film. So I think that the ability to run good routes is definitely there. Like, it's not there's a lot of guys where I'm like, I don't know if he can, really sell vertical and then cut on a dime and get that in route, caught and create a lot of separation between him and the defender. Or I don't know if he's somebody who can, sell, attacking that inside shoulder for the space that he would need on a fade route, even though space is a little bit more irrelevant with how physical he is too. But he's somebody who I really think can sell those little things, just because he does have the explosiveness in his hips and that power from his legs, I think, to really develop into at least a solid route runner and, address the easiest part of his film. Like, you can even take his weaknesses, his quote weaknesses from, these things and turn them into strengths very, very easily. And I think that's what makes him such an intriguing prospect. Combine that with the fact that he's the best student on this top 5 list, and it sounds like you have a really explosive, solid guy for your program here. So I think that Donnie Carney would be a huge shot in the arm to a lot of squads. And honestly, like, I don't know why I feel like CU should jump on this. Like, I feel like that he could be a borderline Power 5 guy. Just because I think that his weaknesses are very addressable, personally. So, and then combine that with just the raw ox strength that he has, and, why doesn't CSU take a chance on him? He literally played for the Rams, but what do I know? So.
Yeah, well, both of those programs feel like they're in flux, so there's that.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens. Regardless, I think he's somebody that should gain more interest and offers as, some football seasons end and some college coaches are looking to fill out the rest of their recruiting class here. And so I'm sure he's going to land somewhere and do a good job over there and get the best opportunity out there for him, because he's a great football player for sure here at number 4. So, yeah, but I don't really have anything else to add. Kodey, you could move on if you don't have anything else to add here. Move on to our number 3 tight end.
Yeah, I got you. Let's go ahead and talk about our number 3 tight end here. This guy is actually already committed to CU as of right now here, and that is Andrew Metzger here out of Regis Jesuit High School here. And, he's actually one of the top rated players. He's the number 8 ranked player in the state of Colorado right now. according to 24/7 Sports. So, there's that. He's had plenty of interest from a lot of D1s. And why is that? Well, let's go ahead and jump into it. First off, he is just, he's the second best blocker on this list, bar none. There's kind of a drop-off, I would say, between Metzger and Carney and then the rest of the guys here. Metzger, I have rated at a 9 as a blocker here. His strength, I have rated at an 8.8 here. I think that he's very strong. And, he goes up against plenty of tough competition here. One thing about Regis is, they may not be, winning state, but they do schedule a very tough schedule, and I think that makes them battle-hardened, and it really helps these players too, I think, just because, it's not like they're going up against, like, scrubs really at any point in the year. They challenge themselves. They play teams like Valor. They've played Arapahoe, Ralston Valley, Creek, you know what I mean? And, from a player standpoint, you get to see Metzger here try and stack up against the likes of a Blake Purchase, against a Chase Brackney. And even in his film, he has a solid block against Chase Brackney here. Eventually it turns into a double team, but he gets where he needs to go against good talent. And, I think that that's one thing that bodes so well for him in the blocking and strength category is he has shown the ability to do it against some of the best in the state here. The ability to do it against some of the best in the state, that is. Not saying that he won every single snap, because that didn't happen, but, he did show flashes to be able to compete with other 3-star guys here. And so, that's encouraging from a scouting perspective. It's like, okay, this is where this player's going, and I know that my guy can do something against him as of right now, even before we get to develop him, right? So, that's pretty fantastic for him. And, looking at the composite score, it looks like he's the 63rd ranked tight end in the country, which is pretty neat. So you have that going for him. And part of that, not only from his blocking capabilities, but his hand/ball skills. Gosh, bro. Oh, he's so underutilized. It's insane to me. But anyways, Metzger here, something that makes him so special is, really, his hands are super sticky. And it is something that he improved drastically in, I would say, from his junior to senior year. Junior year maybe had a bobble here or there, but this year, the ball hit his hands and it just stuck. Like, his hand strength improved so much from last year to this year. And, he's somebody who, when blocking, when getting the football, he drives his feet very, very well here. And so I think that, those 3 categories alone makes him such a strong prospect here. But then, you account into his field vision here. I think that he reads the field pretty well. He makes holes in the defense for himself here, and, has created opportunities and looks for his quarterback over these past couple years as far as finding the gaps in the zone, and that's against more complicated defenses. Once again, I'm talking about defenses that include Cherry Creek, that is such a well-coached defense. He did find success, or he at least repped, I should say, against the likes of Pine Creek. He has repped against a lot of really good secondaries this year, and I think that that's something that has made him so, once again, pop off the film so much in that way. But continuing on here, field vision pretty solid here. Speed, he's pretty fast. He's not the fastest guy. I have him rated at a 7.7 here. 7.7, that is. He's not the best, like, 0 to 60 kind of speed guy. He doesn't take off, as fast as maybe you would hope from some of these faster tight ends, or at least the tight ends that are in front of him. But, he has solid enough speed to run the majority of the routes that you need from him. And, that counts for something here. And, it makes him a red zone threat, being able to find these pockets in the defense and being able to win some of those foot races. Not a lot of them, but win some of those races to the pylon here. Additionally, his route running / release, I have rated at a 7.3. He does a good job running his routes. I think that his release could use a little bit of work, a little bit of variety. It could be spiced up a little bit here. And, it could come off maybe just slow off the line. But, I still think that he's a solid enough football player here. Then we start to look at some of his lower categories here. The biggest one that jumps out to me is his route tree / versatility. I have it a 6. Luckily, his versatility does a lot for him here. He plays H-back. He sometimes splits out wide. And, he puts his hand in the dirt in a traditional, quote, traditional tight end spot here. He even sometimes lines up at fullback. But lining up everywhere can only do so much for your versatility rating. His route tree is really limited. And just not very reflective of the things that he does well as a football player here. And kind of jumping into that too, his verticality / contested catch, I can only give a 7. Because he's just not put in. I think that he has the potential to, but how are you supposed to be good at something that you just don't really get a chance to rep all that much? So, I'm not saying it's one of his worst categories, because I think that it should be higher, but he hasn't been put in the situations to rep that, maybe against, if we saw an at least attempted fade route against Creek, and he was able to win for a first down or something, or, he has to go up and make a catch against one of their corners or one of their safeties and he's able to come down for it. I think he has the ability to make those plays potentially, but honestly, it's a little bit of a question mark because they just don't utilize him that way. So his verticality / contested catch sits at a 7. Balance / body control, I think that it's pretty solid. I have it at a 7. It's one of his lower rated categories here, but I think that's mainly from not... It's not from a blocking standpoint. It's just more from being able to turn and get upfield here, which is reflected in his agility / footwork here. Also at a 7. I mean, there are some plays on his film where he can get upfield here. I really like his footwork as far as, once he gets out of his stance, his feet do a really good job of staying inside and beating the ground like a drum here. And, he does a lot of things really, really well here. But the opportunities just don't look great. His stance, for footwork wise, when he's, has his hand in the dirt is really wide and wonky. He's not going to really juke anyone out. But, still, all in all, basically 7 and above in everything except for route tree versatility, which I don't really think is his fault. Coach V, we obviously talked a lot about this when evaluating Andrew as a pass catcher here. But you want to go ahead and talk about your grades and maybe some of your frustrations that we ran into while watching his film.
Yeah, let's go ahead and do that. Starting at the top here, I gave him an 8.4 for route running / release, 9 for blocking, 7.8 for speed, 9.3 for hand / ball skills, a 6 in footwork agility. Field vision is an 8. Strength is an 8.3 for me. Route tree versatility is a 6. Verticality, contested catch, we differ a little bit here. I gave him a 9.2. I'll explain here in a minute. And then balanced body control is an 8. His overall grade for me is an 80 flat. So I definitely think he's a 3-star type of guy here. Let me talk about the things he does really well here, his highest grade. So I gave him a 9.3 for hands and ball skills, a 9.2 for verticality / contested catch. Look, didn't get a lot of opportunities, but he was able to catch the football a lot over the middle where, there's definitely a linebacker draped over him and he was just able to body them. And he has pretty strong hands and real soft hands as well. Does a good job catching the football. That is something I am not super worried about when it comes to him. Now, when it comes to him being put in situations to show off a little bit more of that verticality and contested catch, when it matters, not just getting a first down, but when it comes to scoring, he doesn't get those opportunities, and that really hurts him a lot. For some reason, he almost never gets targeted in the end zone, in the red zone, which is insane to me. So, and that's a quarterback issue and a scheme issue, which I'll talk about at the end after talking about his grades here. Now, when it comes to blocking, I give him a 9. He does a really good job, not only manhandling some of these guys, but, getting good leverage initially on a lot of good defensive players. Got to watch him in person against Cherry Creek and Pine Creek, 2 very good defenses here on the 5A level, and he does a good job as a blocker. Has pretty long arms and utilizes them really well when setting that edge and when sealing off certain blocks as well, certain defenders. So really high on his blocking. I mean, they also put him at the traditional tight end spot quite a bit, and that's where he blocks from. And so, love to see that. And so, those are his highest grades. So, catching and blocking basically. Now, his lowest grades are footwork agility and then route tree versatility. Let's start with footwork and agility first here. Gave him a 6 of there. Just not a real like he's not somebody that's gonna create a whole ton after the catch, like put a move on somebody and then find open space or anything. I mean, he's somebody that's very much a spot up catcher, but the way Regis Jesuit used him really oh my god, it's kind of foul. The way they used him really highlighted his weaknesses, to be honest with you, than help it highlight his strengths, which really made me have to look at his film a couple of times over. Even watching him in person, had to watch him a couple of times over, because originally I was just not really high on him. But after looking at it a lot, I'm pretty sure Regis Jesuit just doesn't really know how to use him, and that hurts his film. Because when you see him catch all of these out routes, some of these sprint outs they'll have with Carroll, and then they'll throw it short to Andrew Metziger here, and he'll have some room to run. He's just not super agile at all. And on top of that, his top end speed isn't the greatest, only gave him a 7.8. And his acceleration, I mean, it takes him a minute to get there. So he just doesn't really do a good job after the catch. And I think that's more of an athletic ability thing. His field vision's an 8, so I think he sees relatively well. And on the film and watching him play in person, I think you can see that he understands where he has to go and all that. But his body physically, he's just not as athletic as some of the other guys on this list, and he's just not athletic in that way. And so it really kind of exposes him there, just being used the way Regis uses him, as somebody who gets the ball short, and they kind of expect him to go get a bunch of yards or go get the first down, which physically I just don't think he's quite able to do, and I don't think that's the best way to use him. I think when it comes to a guy like Andrew here, he's a big dude at 6'5", 235, and I think he's a spot up catcher, really. I think a comparison that he kind of reminds me of, just thinking NFL wise, not necessarily, saying that he's an NFL guy, but he reminds me a bit of Cole Kmet of the Bears. Not somebody that has a lot of wiggle to him, but he's a good spot up guy, good blocker as well, used as a traditional tight end and all that great stuff. He reminds me more of a Cole Kmet, whereas, he is used as a Travis Kelce, who's really good after the catch, when in reality he's a Cole Kmet who's really stiff, not the fastest dude either, and so that really hurts him. Is that on him? No, not at all. That's on Regis for not knowing better and not coaching better, which is the biggest thing there, which I'm going to really dig into Regis for that, because like I said, it was really hard, kind of overlooking that. So there you go. Now, when it comes to route tree versatility, yeah, he's used in a couple ways, as a blocker and whatnot, but it's almost it is pretty much exclusively from a traditional tight end standpoint. Sometimes he's put outside or in the slot, but he's more of a blocker than anything to set up a screen. That's kind of a dead giveaway with their play calling too. That's something that Valor saw, that Cherry Creek saw, that I saw after the first game, when they put him out there. If he catches it, it's more of maybe short yard situation, but most of the time he's going to go ahead block for screens than anything. So, if I'm able to diagnose that could probably tell you how bad Regis used him. So there you go there. But that's definitely his lowest thing. Would have loved to see him split out and used as an actual wide receiver in red zone situations. I don't know why they didn't put him in one-on-one situations with a smaller cornerback. Well, it doesn't matter. There's no linebacker or corner that's taller than him here in the state of Colorado. He's 6'5", 235. There's nobody taller than him or bigger than him that can match his athleticism. And I mean, like I said, has really good hands, but they just don't use him in the red zone. And it like drove me freaking crazy how much they did not use them. I mean, like I said, watched him against Cherry Creek and Pine Creek, and he just didn't get targets. The targets he did get didn't really put him in a great situation because they're asking him to run a drag route or some quick hitting route where he has to be agile. And like I said, that's not really his strength, and it only exposes him more there, you know. So just not great. Just not great scheming on Regis Jesuit's part. That's not his fault there. You know, obviously he does have some limitations when it comes to versatility just because of his athleticism and all that. But, I mean, you know, you could play him at traditional tight end and then put him outside when you hit the red zone. But they just don't do that. And I think if they did, his versatility would be at least an 8 in my eyes. Kodey, is that fair to say?
Well, where he's at is definitely far from where his ceiling is as far as versatility goes. They aren't even scratching the surface of everything that he's capable of. And honestly, CU, I feel like is getting... maybe I keep calling these steals just because of where these programs are as programs. But CU, I think, is really getting a steal here with Andrew Metzger here, with the upside that he has. And, you know, looking at some of the other places that he got offers to and interest from, and even as recently as receiving an offer from Washington State, you know, I shouldn't say recently, but, you know, getting an offer from Washington State. Washington State is a team that would put him in the red zone and say, good luck to whoever's across from him. Because, you know, they've been seeing, you know, within their region, obviously not right next door, but within their region, you know, Terrence Ferguson of, you know, Oregon being an absolute mismatch. Granted, you know, Terrence does a lot of things better than Andrew with the ball in his hands, but once in the red zone, Terrence Ferguson has been catching touchdowns like a mad lad. And, you know, Metzger is somebody that could pose similar, you know, problems in the red zone matchup-wise if he was used in such a way. And so, you know, for him to just be bought into CU and, you know, holding it down there, I think that is, you know, big time for CU, and they just have to use him properly. I mean, they're going to use him to block, which you absolutely should because of how good he is at it. But, you know, when the opportunity is knocking at the door, give him those looks to score a touchdown for you. Especially, you know, in this Pac-12 where Metzger is just a lot bigger than a handful of these cornerbacks too. So,
yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think he's a really good football player. I mean, I like that he could block, obviously like that he catch. Honestly, when it comes to playing tight end, when just putting it in very simple terms, it's really all you need to know how to do. The rest is just athleticism and stuff like that, which I'm sure he'll be able to get up. So there you go. Yeah, I do agree. CU, they are getting a pretty good steal with Andrew here. I mean, he's a traditional tight end, does a lot of things right. Athletically, he's going to get there. He's going to adjust to the D1 level of it. I mean, you know, everyone's an athlete on that level, obviously, and so he's an athlete as well. But he could definitely still get better. And so taking a red shirt and maybe a year or two to do that will go a long way for him. So there you go. But definitely somebody that can be used in some packages early on if you want to forego all of that. So yeah.
So true. He could definitely see the field pretty fast. Also, shout out to Metzger here with the 3.8 GPA. That is very solid. Academic All-State first team. Love to see it.
Academic weapon. So there you go. Not Donnie Carney level, but you know, a different kind of weapon. So there you go. there you go. I mean, he's a good football player. You know, he's a good football player when it comes to tight ends. You got to be a good football player, real versatile. Just not used as well as he could have been, which is disappointing. So that kind of just leads me to think that he's a steal. So yeah, but don't have too much more to say here. Do you, Kodey?
I mean, overall grade, you know, between myself and Coach V at a 78.55 here, and most of that is from lack of looks. I'll say is why he's not like a clear cut 80 flat between our average. I think that's pretty fair to say, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think he's for sure a 3-star talent, though.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
So, all right. Well, there you go. That is your number 3 tight end here in the class of 2022. Let's move on here. We got some great players to talk about. And the second best tight end here in the state of Colorado, at least in the class of 2023, is Josiah Steven Silva, the tight end out of Fountain Fort Carson here, standing at around 6'3", 220. This kid is a great athlete. Got to watch him play live against Golden last year in the playoffs. He did his thing there, and then obviously plenty of film to look over, from his junior year, from his senior year, some good full games to look at as well. Let me just go ahead and talk about his grades here, all the stuff that I gave him. So route running release gave him an 8.4, blocking it is an 8, speed is an 8.8, the fastest up until now here out of all the tight ends we've talked about so far. Hands, ball skills 9.2, footwork agility 7, field vision is an 8.5, strength is an 8, route tree versatility is a 7.5, verticality, contested catch 8.2, then balanced body control is an 8.8. My overall grade for him is an 82.4. I think he is firmly a 3-star guy, a D1 guy. Let's talk about his top categories though. So his highest rated category is hands and ball skills, gave him a 9.2 there. Then his second highest ones, it's kind of a tie here between speed and balance and body control at an 8.8. Let me talk about this. So hands and ball skills, he has really good hands, makes a lot of great hands catches, see him catch contested balls, see him, he does a lot. The last thing I worry about is his ball skills, to be honest with you, because he's really a bigger receiver. When you look at him, obviously standing at 6'3", 220, he's really just a taller receiver out here, and he does a really good job. On top of that, he's a great athlete for his size. 8.8 speed and 8.8 balanced body control. He does a good job, breaking a lot of tackles. When he gets the football in his hands, this guy is a guy that can make a lot happen with the ball in his hands. He doesn't need to just spot up and catch, even though I'm sure he can. He is somebody that you got to get the ball in his hands, and he's going to play make. You get him the ball on these short routes and whatnot, he's going to make a couple guys miss and then just burn the defense from there on. I've seen it happen live. I've seen it happen on his film. He is a true tackle breaker. He is almost guaranteed to make the first guy miss, and if he doesn't make a miss, he's going to punish him by, being a physical guy as well. But just a great athlete altogether with really good hands. I really view him as a bigger receiver that you could put him out there. But, he's not a bad blocker or anything either. I gave him an 8 there. So there you go. Those are his highest ratings. I think that really encompasses what type of football player, what type of tight end he is. He's a receiving tight end, a possession one for sure. Do want to note as well, he can burn some secondaries too. So you got to kind of put an athletic, football player, whether it's a safety, hybrid, linebacker, corner, whatever, you got to kind of scheme for that when it comes to covering an athlete like Josiah Steven Silva out of Fountain Fort Carson, which, naturally puts a lot of defenses in pressurized and difficult spots because, you don't quite know what guy you can put on him because he's too tall to just put a corner on him, too tall and too strong to just put a corner on him, but he's faster than most linebackers, so you gotta pick your poison with him, and that's what he brings to the table here with that. Now, his lower grades, it's not even too bad. Footwork agility is a 7. This is mostly for his footwork than agility. I would say his agility is pretty good at a tight end, but his footwork could get a little sloppy. Would like to see him tighten it up a little bit here. Not anything too crazy. Like I said, this grade is mostly low because of footwork, not agility. I think he has really good agility there. So there you go there. Now, when it comes to route tree versatility, he's lined up in a bunch of different places and whatnot. so I'm not super worried about versatility. This is more of a route tree thing. Doesn't have the most complicated route tree. Does run a good number of routes and whatnot though. So, but just not as much as some other guys. Not as much as he could. Like he's not used like a Terrence Ferguson, I would say, who has like the complete route tree to him. With Josiah Stevens-Silva, it still feels a little limited. But part of that, in my opinion, is because of some quarterback play and not always being able to get him the ball on more complicated routes and stuff like that. Complicated routes slash ball placements. So you got to consider that. But I think on the next level, you'll see that be much more improved. So there you go. But that's the second rated tight end here for both of us. And those are my grades here. Altogether, I mean, I think he's a great athlete. He is basically a bigger receiver that does a lot. Great run after the catch ability, and just a great overall athlete. He's somebody that's a mismatch, a walking mismatch out there. Kodey, what do you think about Josiah Stevens-Silva, and what are your grades?
Yeah, so Josiah, obviously, he's number 2 on our list for a reason here. He just does so many things well. And, I could see where you're coming from on the route tree / versatility and the limitedness on that. But I do think that he's one of the most versatile, if not, I think I actually have him graded as the most versatile player on here. Just because, he does run a number of routes. It's not super deep. That's why it's not a 9. It's definitely not T. Ferg levels. Poor tight ends that have to be judged. When our first year we had the awesome ability to watch Terrence Ferguson. That's just tough. But, I think that he runs them, but he also runs them from a variety of positions. He runs them with his hand in the dirt. He runs them from the slot. He runs them from outside. He runs them from H-back. So all of those things add up very, very fast. And, just him having a wheel route is like, there's not really any other tight end on here that runs a wheel route, on their film. He has those drags, he has those ins, he has those spots, he has those outs, he has those corners, he has posts even. He's used in a variety of ways, and, it's not, I wouldn't say it's the highest level. You don't see a lot of, crazy stuff, but, he's very capable of running a lot of options. So, from a college standpoint, I would say that, he does offer at least a little bit more knowledge, or at least applied knowledge, I should say, running the route tree. But that's not his highest category for me. His highest category for me is his ball skills / hands. He has really sticky hands, and, he can reach up and make catches that are up high. He can make catches in tight windows, and, just has a very solid ability to make catches in very, very tight windows here. And being able to carry that ball all the way to the ground, or, even get upfield for that, that's very solid here, honestly. Now, looking at route running / release, he has, I think that he understands the spacing of the field very, very well. He shows the ability to split linebackers running his routes and finding the spot green there. He's good at drifting with quarterbacks and, doing a little bit improvisation there, which is, I think, route running a little bit. I think that it also ties into field vision that I have knocking at it. I'd say this field vision's an 8 with the pockets that he's able to find in the defense, and that just got bumped up in real time there. So, these are all things that he does very, very well, but his hands and ball skills, being able to adjust to the ball, especially adjusting to the ball because it wasn't always on the money, is something that he did very, very well this year. And he has sticky hands. He's shown to reach up and make a grab here and there. Speed-wise, he is somebody that has burnt cornerbacks. Coach V mentioned that he can get past a defense, and that is absolutely true, and his speed is a big, big part of that as well. He's a very, very fast athlete who can see the field, make catches, run a variety of routes, run them pretty well. He has different releases as well to beat press. He's also strong enough to, beat press in a more physical, aggressive way. So all of these things are things that he does really, really well. I think that does it for anything that's above an 8. The rest of these things are in the 7s here. And so, I think agility / footwork could use a little bit of work here. Honestly, I think that he looks a little clunky sometimes, trying to get upfield. Like his hip will just swing a little bit too far outside of his frame as he tries to get upfield, and that's tough. His footwork is his base is too narrow when he's running with the football, so it really limits his bag as far as moves that he can pull off on guys, and he just puts himself in compromised positions, which I think is what impacts his balance / body control. He gets foot tackled sometimes, which is not about his strength. His strength I have rated at an 8.6. He can push someone over. He can go through a tackler if his body is positioned correctly. But I think that the big problem is that he's not necessarily like shoulders over his feet and, running strong. He doesn't put himself in a good position to, make these plays to go through defenders. In addition to that, verticality / contested catch, I have it at a 7.6. I think that he does a good job making, contested catches. I think that he can get up there, but he hasn't really shown. Once again, this is one of those things that's just kind of tough, especially once you hear about our number one guy as well as other tight ends in the past. He doesn't really moss anybody, I wouldn't say. Like, there's not one play where you're just like, oh my gosh, that cornerback can't show his face on campus anymore kind of thing. I don't really think he has that kind of capability, which is why it's at like a 7.6. I think it's good, and I think that he can make, jump ball catches, but he's not going to just absolutely embarrass somebody per se. But that's not even his lowest categories here. His agility / footwork, I have rated the lowest. I have that rated at a 7. And then his blocking, I have rated at a 7.1. Once again, his base just gets way too narrow when he's blocking here. He does a really good job of blocking in space, which for, a spread offense is super ideal. And he does a good job of blocking with screens, and he has good field awareness there. But maybe not somebody that you want inside the box. I think that on the next level, he's somebody that, could get called for holding, or his hands might get a little too far away from him, or may not have control over like the opponent's chest pads maybe as much as some of these other guys here. So that's why his blocking's at a 7.1. But I mean, you still do all this math, lowest score of a 7, highest score of an 8.9. That is a very solid football player, one that I actually ended up coming around to an 80.2 on here overall. And, very easily has 3 stars here. Coach V, what do you think of my assessment of his game? I mean, we're pretty on page that he's, what you're looking for in a modern tight end as far as, a wide receiver-esque tight end that can do a lot of the things that you ask him to do. But we are just a little bit different on exactly how he's able to do that.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I definitely agree. Look, I just kind of view him more as a receiving tight end. Honestly, his blocking could use a little bit more work. I did give him an 8 because he does do a good job. Not at a traditional tight end spot, but, out in space, which is good as well. But it never hurts. I mean, it hurts the versatility, obviously. But it never hurts, being able to block as a fullback or as a traditional guy. Blocking linebackers and whatnot. I think as a bigger player, you should be able to block corners and safeties and whatnot. I think that's kind of expected. So I see where you're coming from there. And versatility wise, he is used quite a bit in a bunch of different situations. I do think the route tree is limited, but yeah, I mean, altogether, I still agree with you. I think he's a great athlete. I think for his size as well, that's something you gotta consider. He is a very, very good athlete, a top tier athlete, and that's why he is for sure going D1. Do you want to talk about his commitment and all that stuff?
I would love to, because I was really excited when I came across this. I mean, look, he's had a few D1 offers here to Yale, to UNC, Northern Colorado, that is, to New Mexico State, and those are all cool here. But how exciting is it that Josiah Steven Silva is going to be a Chippewa at Central Michigan here? I think that this is big time, obviously for Josiah and Central Michigan, but also for Colorado football in general. This is huge, honestly. Coach V, how do you feel about that commitment?
I love it. I love it at the time. I mean, he made this commitment back in the summer, and I respect this kid a lot. He's been part of a great Fountain for Carson program that has put a lot of guys, on the next level and whatnot because they've developed them so well. And so Central Michigan is a fine program out there, and I think he's found a very good home that's going to utilize him in a lot of ways. They're getting an absolute weapon out there. This is a guy that could potentially even switch positions to receiver, and I wouldn't be surprised about that and still do a good job out there. So, really excited for him. Don't know if he'll get to play right away. We'll see what happens. I'm sure he's going to redshirt at least, and then they'll go from there. But definitely expect him to turn up and do his thing out there. He's a special athlete for sure. So, and deserves all these offers. I feel like if he waited a little bit, which, it comes with pros and cons, obviously committing before your senior year. But if he did wait until after his senior year and put out his film playing against a lot more 5A comp, I think he would have gotten more interest and stuff, because I think he's somebody that's a Power 5, Group of 5 type of tight end. That's what Central Michigan is, obviously, but I think he could have got maybe a couple more Power 5 offers potentially here, specifically from conferences like the Big 12, the Pac-12 that have more offensive heavy focuses. Does that feel fair to say, Kodey? He's still going to a great program regardless.
Yeah, I think that, he definitely would be a really solid Big 12 tight end. I have no doubt about that. But, I do like, it looks like, recruiting wise, Central Michigan has done everything right for Josiah and has done him right. So I don't blame him for being ahead of the ball on that. And, out of the offers that he currently has, I do like the Central Michigan commit the most. He definitely could have garnered maybe a little bit more of attention. He has his highlights out now. So, things can change, to be fair. But for the time being, he does have a pretty nice setup. I'd say, especially, honestly, he might have the best opportunity, at least as of right now, for the next level to make an impact on the college scene. Out of this class of tight ends, that is.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely fair. So, there you go. That's Josiah Steven Silva. Definitely will be missed. He's played some great football here in Colorado. But, Kodey, before we go to our number one tight end, do you mind if I talk about some honorable mentions here?
No, I do not.
All right, so we have a couple guys who barely just missed the cut. Simon Kibbe out of Grandview is one. I'll talk about him here. Look, he is somebody who, first off, is the tallest guy that we've considered at 6'8", 235, and he moves pretty well for his size. Could he move better? Yeah, for sure. But I think he's just a really raw prospect that I don't think Grandview knew exactly how to use either, which kind of hurts him. But even then, I still feel like he's raw. There are some things that I think as an athlete you could still work on, like his agility and whatnot. That's a big thing when it comes to him, and his footwork. He's a little clunky when running he's really clunky, honestly, when running his routes, and so he barely just missed the cut for us, but was definitely in consideration. Now, his upside is a lot. I think he has D1 upside for sure here, and we'll see what happens there, but he is a project player for sure. And so somebody that, can go to a D1, but he's not going to be able to play right away. I think he at least needs 2 or 3 years to really get him to where you want him to be. And on top of that, just depending on what offense or scheme you run, that could affect how much time it takes for him to actually play. And so there you go. That's just what we think about him there. Another guy here, AJ Folk out of Durango. As of right now, just doesn't have a whole lot of film out there, not a whole lot of highlights to look at. And as far as games to watch, not a lot of games to look at here. Plus, he's down in Durango, so we weren't able to watch him play live at all, which sucks. But I am gonna acknowledge that both of us are gonna acknowledge that he's a really good athlete at 6'2", 230, carries his weight really well, and he could be a Delaney Walker type. Just with the way he's a good blocker and he catches the ball. I mean, he does a good job after the catch and whatnot. And so I think the biggest issue there is just that we just don't have access to a lot of film. But if we did, I personally feel like he's at least an FCS guy. He's somebody that could be used as an H-back, fullback for sure here. Maybe fill Kyle Juszczyk role for a lot of teams and whatnot, more so than tight end potentially. So there you go. Those are the two biggest, I guess, prospects that barely just missed out here for, different reasons. Now some other guys do want to talk about Josiah Cornwell out of Florence, 6'4", 220. He's a good athlete, solid athlete. He barely just missed out. We also have like a lot of players like Will Adams, Jerry Lydiot, Jaden Williams. Will Adams, by the way, from Columbine, Lydiot from Pine Creek, Williams from Lutheran. I'm also going to throw out there Ethan Bird from Littleton as well. I mean, all guys who are listed at tight end, but I feel like are just better defensive players on the next level, and so we didn't really consider them that much at tight end. Plus, on top of that, I mean, they just didn't get a lot of opportunities to catch the ball outside of, or really play football at tight end outside of blocking. So there you go there. Kodey, do you have anything else you want to add on here about these honorable mentions? Anybody else you want to mention here?
I mean, we took a small look at Alex Turpin, who had a solid season at Mountain Vista, and Coach V even got to see him live. So that's something to kind of bring up there. AJ Folk, I mean, he has really, really high upside here. I really like what you could potentially do with him at the tight end spot. Maybe just not in the best system to succeed, and maybe not the most educated on film prep and getting it out there. But, AJ Folk, solid option, like Coach V said. Josiah Cornwell out of Florence. He impressed. He did a lot for that Florence squad in their pretty solid season here, their first season in 2A. And then Kibbe, I mean, gosh, his potential is so high, but he does have some serious work to do there. But, I mean, just like anybody, you see 6'8", and he's heavier than 235. I feel like he's probably closer to 240, if not 245 pounds, because he's just huge. It's like, who the heck is going to cover this guy by themselves? No one is the answer, but he has a lot of things to iron out here. But somebody who maybe doesn't have as much to iron out here is our number one tight end. Coach V, do you mind if I introduce him?
Yeah, go for it.
Our number one tight end of the class of 2023, basically keeping on brand for the third year in a row on how important receiving tight ends can be when they are dominant, is Rock Canyon's DeAndre Horn here. Shout out to TFG for really putting us onto this guy and, making sure that we keep our ear to the ground as far as what he's able to accomplish. I'll start with the weaknesses here. And then build my way up, or the areas of improvement, my apologies, because there are a lot of I don't know if I've ever given any prospect this many 9s, honestly, but I digress. As far as areas of improvement, I think that his blocking partially comes from a place of, what he's being asked to do. He's not really being asked to do anything crazy. It's a lot of down blocking. It's a lot of double teams. And, sometimes his hands can slip outside. So I just gave it a 6.6. He does have pancakes recorded. So, take from that what you will. He's strong. He's powerful. So, he's got that going for him as a blocker. Just maybe needs some technique stuff and different opportunities to work on that, maybe. But if you're honestly using him to block a whole lot, you're probably using him wrong. And then the other thing is route tree / versatility. Now, this is at a 6.8. And the reason why this is such a difficult category to grade, and Coach V and I talked about it, is because, look, versatility-wise, he returns punts, he takes handoffs, he lands up with his hand in the dirt, he lines up split out, sometimes he's in the slot. That's cool and all, But route tree wise, he basically runs goes and hitches. Not anything more. That's not on him. Because we've seen in TFG, he's capable of doing other things, but he just does not get that opportunity in pads with the Rock Canyon offense that, is as complex as a rock, potentially. But moving forward here, his next highest category is route running / release. I have a 7.8. Look, you can only do so much with route running when there's such a limited sample size of routes, but he shows complex releases, he shows stutters, he shows moves, he shows good jabs, he gets off the line, he can beat press. He's honestly probably too strong for most cornerbacks to press. Like, you got to be a freak to be able to press this guy with how strong he is. And then, route running wise, he's good at throwing in like a little stutter there and, freezing the defender who's afraid of getting beat deep and then getting beat deep anyways. So he's got that going for him. Continuing to climb up this ladder. I just talked about how strong he is, both in the run game where he has pancakes and in the pass game where you can't really jam him. I have his strength out at 8.2. He is, just very arm strength solid there. My dude benches players on the field, so I'm not really worried about it. It's definitely 3-star quality at least. And this is where we start to sniff the 4-star kind of capabilities here. Agility / footwork, 8.7. He moves very, very well, especially for his size at like 6'4", 220 pounds. And, his ability to kind of go back across the field, you could see that in his return game more than anything, that he is a very solid, agile player. Sometimes his base, footwork-wise, can get a little tight, but, that's not the worst. And then definitive 4-star stuff, balance / body control, 8.9. He's very good at changing, direction, but also he's very hard to bring down here. And, I think that's from understanding leverage, and he leverages so well. Even when he's disadvantaged leverage-wise, he still wins the leverage game, being able to contort his body, make circus catches, be able to legitimately moss people while someone is on his back at the same time. Like, it's his ability to control his limbs, on, like, individually, and, like, the autonomy that he shows running routes and going up for the football is just very, very impressive, while also having, that capability to get that toe down in bounds or drag that foot. I think that speaks to his body control and his awareness. And then everything from here is a 9 or above. Hand / ball skills, 9.1. He makes incredible grabs. His hands are insanely strong. He can adjust to the ball incredibly well in order to put himself in a position to catch it. Verticality / contested catch. Oh, there's this one play on his film. Double covered. It doesn't matter. DeAndre Horn scores a touchdown. And then the quarterback just throws it up and says, "I bet." And Horn says, "I got you," and comes down with a ridiculous catch in double coverage. And he's double covered quite a bit, so he has to make a lot of these really tough catches here. Speed, 9.4. He's so fast. I won't take everything here. I want to make sure. I'll let Simon talk about his speed because I know he was raving about it here. But he's easily the fastest guy on this list. And then field vision, 9.5. I don't know if I can name another tight end who has a punt return for a touchdown. I really don't know if I can. But DeAndre Horn is one of those guys here. He was their return guy for a lot of punts this year, and he was somebody who was a threat to take it back every single time here. And specifically, and it was specifically this year, he hadn't done it before, but he had 19 punt returns for like 340 yards, so including a long of 81. He had 2 punt returns, 4 touchdowns this year, one against my alma mater, Arapahoe, where he is just clowning this entire defense, weaving in and out of lanes created by his blockers and showing his ability to make cuts and find spots on the field. While also, this year he did get some opportunities to run the football as well, to varying success, but he had opportunities to run the football, and with the tight end sweeps that he was given, I'd say that he hit the hole just fine. Coach V, what do you have to say about this incredibly gifted receiver at tight end whose ceiling seems limitless.
Yeah, well, here, let me go ahead and talk about all my grades here real quick. Route running release gave him an 8.8. Blocking is a 7.9. Speed is a 9.2. I am really confident in that. Hands ball skills 9.3. Footwork agility 8.6. Field vision 9.2. Strength 8.3. Route tree versatility a 6. So there you go. Verticality contested catch 9.2. Balance body control 9. Overall grade is an 85.5 here. He is definitely a 3-star, borderline 4-star, to be honest with you. But playing in the system he played in really hurt him, and they severely underutilized him. But I'll talk about that later. Let me go ahead and talk about the things he does well. So I have 3 grades out of 9.2. That is speed, field vision, and verticality contested catch. Let me start with contested catch here. There's nobody in the state, in my opinion, that could guard him one-on-one. Just gonna be honest with you there. At least no corners. Definitely no linebackers, I would say, that could really cover him one-on-one. I mean, when it comes to just physical, no, that's not a word. Out-bodying guys, I mean, he does a really good job. You know, if it's one-on-one, he's going to come down with the football. He has really strong hands, does a good job getting leverage, does all the right things here when it comes down to that. And, you know, in the position he was in with Rock Canyon, they really only went to him when they needed to get bailed out, and he bailed them out pretty much 100% of the time. You know, and that means basically they just throw it up there and tell him to get it, and he would go do it. And it sounds easier said than done, but you know, for him to do it on a consistent basis is definitely super impressive there. That's why it's a 9.2. Haven't seen many guys with the ability to make contested catches like DeAndre Horn here. Terrence Ferguson obviously is always going to be number one when it comes to being a contested catcher, you know, being a top tier contested catcher. But DeAndre Horn, in my eyes, is right behind him when it comes to tight ends we've evaluated all time. So there you go there. Now, hands, ball skills, that's obviously roped in there. Gave him a 9.3 for a reason. Really doesn't drop many passes at all, and I don't think he will. Catches from a bunch of different angles. Catches as good as any receiver in the state. I think if he was used as a receiver in another program, you know, he would definitely be, he would have been number one at tight end, but he probably would have classified more as a receiver, and he'd potentially have the best hands in the receiver group this year and really any other year. You know, just really reliable hands here. Now, speed here, I mean, his athleticism is off the charts. He's a strong dude. His blocking is really low here, mostly for skills, like you said, Kodey, more than anything. But he has a great blend of speed and strength here. But this speed is very special. I mean, we've seen him run for TFG, obviously catching passes for them and all that stuff. And he could get it. He could get it. Like, he could get at it. You know, like, if it comes down to a foot race, there aren't many guys that are just going to beat him, to be honest with you. We've seen him be a true deep threat with a team full gorilla and be somebody that not only could finish the catch, but could burn a lot of dudes as well if they're not paying attention. So there you go there. Then last but not least here, field vision. I mean, he sees the field very well. There's a reason why they put him at punt return and kick return, even though he is a tight end. It's because he sees the field better than anybody else on that team, who have plenty of talented guys on that squad too. So it's not like they're just working with a nobody and he's their only option. He sees the field extremely well there, like a receiver. You know, better than some receivers, a lot of receivers, honestly. So there you go. Now his lowest grades, 7.9 for blocking and 6 for route tree versatility. Let me talk about blocking just real quick. Once again, I think he could do a better job getting leverage and whatnot. He's used a little bit as a traditional tight end, more so than I'd like, which isn't really how he should be used, so that kind of hurts him there. But he could definitely improve on his leverage and, regaining leverage too, making sure that he's not holding and stuff like that. On top of that, I would like to see how he would do against corners and safeties, but that's just kind of nitpicking there. I'm not super concerned about that. So 7.9, potentially even an 8 here. Definitely could use some work. I mean, that's just something he could continue to work on there. Now, route tree and versatility is a 6, and that's because of Rock Canyon's system, and not really on him at all. I mean, route tree, we've seen him run basically the entire route tree with Team Full Gorilla, but not in pads, and I think that really matters when you're an evaluator and whatnot. And if you're considering bringing him on, I mean, you see the 7-on-7 stuff, that goes a long way for him, but in pads, they just really don't. Rock Canyon just doesn't throw the ball, and they don't run complicated passing concepts, and for those reasons is why they are not only underutilizing DeAndre Horn, but they're underutilizing their team as a whole and as an offense. So there you go. I'm not even going to mince words there. They just don't do a good job getting the most out of everybody on that team. And I truly believe that. And that was the case with DeAndre Horn. And even then, he is still our number 1 tight end. So that should tell you a lot about that program and whatnot. So there you go. Now, and that's just route tree stuff. Versatility, I mean, they use him in a lot of different ways, as a returner, as a receiver, obviously as a blocker. He even got to run the ball and did a good job there. There were some plays where he broke off, and honestly, I really like him running the football. Don't know why they didn't give him more carries and whatnot. He should have at least had 100 to 150 carries this season if you wanted to run the ball and utilize him, but they didn't. So there you go there. And that's just kind of a missed opportunity because he's a great athlete and a big dude at 6'4", 220 who could break a lot of tackles. But yeah, I don't know. So there you go. That is not on him at all. I think on the next level, someone will use him and have an absolute steal with this kid. I mean, he is extremely talented and just a physical specimen as well. Does a lot of good things here as a receiver and as a tight end. So, yeah, I mean, that's DeAndre Horn. And in my opinion, by the way, my overall grade, like I said, is an 85.5. And in my opinion, he's a Power 5 tight end through and through. He could fit in a lot of systems. I don't think it's like too much of a hassle to teach him to be a cleaner blocker and whatnot. I think he could do that. On top of that, I think he could put on more weight and still be faster than most dudes on the next level. But Cody, do you want to talk about his offers? And, what do you think about my evaluation of DeAndre Horn?
I think that we're on the same page here as far as the frustrations with his game have less to do with his game and more to do with the position that he's been put in. But I mean, we have 9s in a lot of the same places. We have, 8s in a lot of the same places. And we agree that his 2 lowest graded categories are the same. Obviously, we have different grades there. But, I think that his blocking is pretty irrelevant. And, if you're using him as a blocking tight end, you're misusing him. And, he's somebody who has bailed out his quarterback a lot. So, that is the reason why, his verticality in his hands are so strong. And I agree that he has some of the strongest hands that we've seen as far as evaluating receivers and tight ends in this state. He's very just powerful in that sense as well. So, but, he does have a few D1 offers here. And in the order that he's received them is how I have them right now. He received his first D1 offer from Eastern Illinois. Then he received his first FBS offer from Marshall, then Northern Colorado, and most recently NAU here. I think that, gosh, I obviously want to root for, UNC here to land him. But I really think he could do better than that. I think he could do better than NAU. I think that, considering the exposure that he's going to... he's going to make noise no matter where he is. But I do think that, maybe playing for Marshall would be a pretty sweet move for him. and maybe the one where he could at least potentially get the biggest spotlight, because he's somebody who I think has, that next level potential upside here. What do you think of these offers here? And are there some other schools that you think should come a knocking here? Well, obviously there are schools that should come a knocking, but any scheme-wise where you think that he could really excel? I mean, I look at what Terrence Ferguson has done at Oregon and wonder, maybe DeAndre Horn could also succeed as a Duck or something along those lines.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think he's an FBS guy. FCS offers, those are cool and whatnot. As long as your whole college education's getting paid for, that's what matters. But obviously, you got to know your worth. And DeAndre Horn's worth is that he's an FBS guy in my eyes. I don't really see him as an FCS guy. Honestly, I don't really see him as a group of 5 guy either. I think he's a Power 5 dude. I look at a lot of these teams. Let's go to the Pac-12 here. I mean, let's look at CU's roster. Do they have a tight end as athletic as DeAndre Horn? The answer is no. I know they have Eric Olson on there. That's no, shot at him. But DeAndre Horn's faster than him. I think that is extremely fair to say here, even though Eric Olson's more traditional tight end. Maybe that's not the best fit, but, who knows? It depends who CU hires here and whatnot. But I just look at CU's roster and I just don't see a tight end that could be better than him, or at least more athletic than him. I think a team like UCLA in Chip Kelly's system, I think that would make a lot of sense for him. I look at Oregon State. I mean, do they really have a tight end that's better than DeAndre Horn? I don't think so. If not, they'd be better. Washington State obviously offered Josiah Stevens-Silva. Maybe they could get DeAndre Horn. I mean, I'm just looking at all these teams in the Pac-12, and I'm like, I feel like he would fit in with a lot of these squads and have a similar impact as a Terrence Ferguson. Now, obviously, I don't think he is a better prospect than Terrence Ferguson, at least right now, coming out of high school, and that is definitely something that is hurting him right now. And I mean, I'm going to blame Rock Canyon. They didn't utilize him as well, and that's definitely hurting his recruitment. Because, everyone loves 7v7, and that's great. We obviously have a lot of respect for it, but when it comes down to it on the college level, college coaches value film and pads. Your work in pads, your best work in pads. And I think Rock Canyon running the system they did, not giving him as many opportunities as they could, even though they, made him kick return and all that stuff, is really hurting his recruitment right now. Now, who knows, maybe in a month, a whole bunch of teams come through and offer him, and he has more options than the ones we just listed. I think that could definitely happen as well, but, we'll see. We'll see what happens, but I just think he is way too talented to settle, and if he wants to go JUCO, I think he'll succeed right away. Obviously, go to a JUCO that's going to use you to the best of your ability. Don't go to a JUCO that's going to use you as more of a traditional tight end than one that might run the spread a little bit more. So there you go. Kodey, what do you think about all of that? I feel like that is really fair to say, and I just think, looking at this kid, I mean, he's one of the best tight end prospects in the last couple years.
Absolutely, but like you said, that film and pads is important. It didn't put him in the best spot. I mean, you even look at last year, look at Jade Arroyo here, and I mean, he was given lots of looks and lots of opportunities. He was given the ability to show that he can run an expansive route tree and that his route running was fantastic, and that makes such a huge difference. And just stay tuned for whenever we do our culture series. We will have more and more to say about it, as we go through these lists and as we talk about wide receivers and as we talk about passing game in Colorado, how, it has evolved in the past couple of years, but how it still has a long way to go. And DeAndre Horn is such a good example of that, just with the opportunities that he wasn't quite given here. But I mean, like I said, I think that his ceiling is unlimited due to his physicality. He makes great catches in tight spaces. He's an elite vertical and jump ball guy. He bails out QBs. His blocking is okay, but it doesn't have to be crazy. But being able to work on his route tree in pads would go a long way here. But I mean, speed, returning, vision, catching, vertical. I think he's just trapped in a system in high school, but he's a gifted D1 playmaker that fits the mold of a modern tight end that is big, fast, and a headache for defensive coordinators.
Absolutely agreed and more. So there you go. Not really too much more to say here. Let's just go ahead and review our top 5 tight ends once again here. So at number 5 is Grand Junction Central's Cash Walker here. At number 4, my bad, my thing was out of order here. At number 4 is Green Mountain's Donnie Carney. At number 3 is Regis Jesuits, Andrew Metziger. At number 2 is Josiah Steven Silva out of Fountain Fort Carson. And then at number 1, your number 1 tight end here in the class of 2023 is Rock Canyon's DeAndre Horn. Great group of tight ends. I feel like this is always a really underrated group here. Colorado always puts out good groups. Last year was a little bit of a down year, but this year you kind of saw a little bit of a bounce back, right, Kodey?
Absolutely. I mean, we were spoiled our first year, with Terrence Ferguson, Gunnar Helm, as well, Eric Olson. We were spoiled that first year, as Colorado was like the state for tight ends that year, at least as far as having guys in, that top 100 and whatnot. Last year, a little bit of a dip, but definitely guys who had, next level upside, a lot of D2 guys who were big and strong, maybe just not as fast. And then, Jade Arroyo, who did end up having to transfer after the whole CSU thing, but, still was a good talent there, at least at the top end. But this year, a lot more consistent, especially up here at the top. I mean, you look at our top 4, and it's like Horn and Steven Silva, more modern tight ends, receiver, leaning tight ends. And then, Donnie Carney and Andrew Metzger here, both being, kind of traditional tight ends, but really good traditional tight ends who can really block. So I think that the versatility and the spread here of these tight ends was really, really fun and intriguing to kind of break down and get a tons of different looks. And I think that, all these guys outside of maybe Steven Silva, definitely a little handcuffed by their schemes and maybe underutilized, but regardless, still put on to get looks on the D1 levels for all these guys, and still enough to put on and end up in this top 2023 senior list here. And yeah, I'm just going to repeat what you said. 5, Cash Walker. 4, Donnie Carney. 3, Andrew Metzger. 2, Stevens Silva. And then number 1, DeAndre Horn.
Yes, so there you go. But thank you so much for rocking with us. If you want to stay up to date on everything Playmakers Corner, go ahead and show some love on social media. Follow us, all that great stuff. At Playmakers Corner on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, all of that. What am I trying to say here? On TikTok, we'll be posting highlights of some of these players so you could see them in action. So go ahead and tune in there. Also, just a lot of great content there. And then go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel and Twitch as well. Our podcast episodes are dropping on YouTube, so if you want to listen to that, I know some people prefer that than, Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Go ahead and do that. So boom, there you go. We also upload YouTube Shorts, all the same TikToks that we put on TikTok, or at least most of them, maybe not all of them, but at least most of them we put on YouTube Shorts. So there you go. And Twitch will definitely be doing some live streams here soon. Probably not this month, but next year for sure. So yeah, I don't think there is too much more to add on. Keep tuning into these. I know at this point we are basically just releasing these on Fridays. These are the only episodes coming out. So there you go. But keep tuning in. We got a lot of episodes to look forward to for top 5 senior tight ends, not just tight ends, but top 5 senior players here in Colorado, and a lot of great athletes that we want to spotlight and talk about and evaluate, just like this. So yeah, Kodey, anything else to add on or say?
Thanks for rocking with us, and stay tuned. Kodey Stoffer signing off.
Boom. Peace.